This is the story of how I was impacted by My Hero Academia and how I feel about the series' different aspects and themes. I'll dive into some of my favorite parts of the series and what makes it so special to me, but before that though, I'd be more than happy if everyone could leave a like on the video to support me, and if you aren't already subscribed, hello, I'm Lava or Dispy, whichever you prefer. I'll talk about my interests on this channel, which most recently over the past few years has been shown in anime, so if you like hearing opinions, hearing about experiences I've had on different series, feel free to subscribe for more. And if you have any recommendations on certain shows or films I should watch or speak on, feel free to comment it down below and I'll respond as soon as possible. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming and hearing me out once again. This is still the early ages, right? The first steps of this channel. So any support means so much to me. And with that being said, this is the story of how I was saved by My Hero Academia. Who would have guessed that me going to Barnes & Noble before seeing the Barbie movie with some of my old friends would actually change the course of my life? I'll speak for myself since this is my video, but I wasn't really watching anime like crazy until early 2023. It's all somewhat of a blur to me now, but me and two of my buddies at the time really got into Attack on Titan, and it's what really pushed me personally to get into anime in general. Fast forward to July of that same year, and I'm in that Barnes & Noble picking up Attack on Titan volume 33. While doing that, something just made me pick up this bright yellow manga titled My Hero Academia. Maybe it was the bright yellow that got my attention, or the word hero included in it that made me pick it up, but nonetheless, I bought volume 1 that day as well. I want to make clear, I was aware of some of the status My Hero's reputation had due to Annie Talk in 2021 and the 2020 anime TikToks that would pop up on my feed, but I knew absolutely nothing about the story or characters. In fact, my initial reaction to My Hero will always be so funny to me because I originally thought that All Might was actually the villain due to his fierce smile and like his pointy hair. But anyway, I've read all of volume 1 over the span of a few weeks since I was only reading the manga on my break at work, so it actually took me a while longer to complete than I'd like to admit. Once I finished the amazing and inspiring book that is My Hero Academia Volume 1, the initial plan was to buy the rest of the volumes and catch up to it that way, but I quickly came to the conclusion that senior year me working part-time would not be able to reasonably afford all that, so the second best option was obviously to start the anime instead. But I'm gonna say now, it did not take long at all for it to become my most favorite shonen series that I've ever seen. Season 1 was actually a wonderful introduction to the world that is My Hero Academia, with reasonable stakes for the time, with the USJ fight near the end, introducing us to the darker side of the world. I'm not gonna lie, Season 2 was actually pretty great. It's a well done take on the traditional shonen tournament showdown arc that always happens in shows, like the one in Hunter x Hunter that still isn't animated, or the one even recently in Jujutsu Kaisen with the Cullen games. Arc 2 in Season 2 being where one of My Hero's greatest story element introductions gets announced is so great. And villains. Season 3's training camp to Kamino Showdown arc is one of the greatest anime runs I've ever seen to this day, with like my heart non-stop pumping every time I rewatch it. Arc 2's Hero License Exam was definitely a step down in terms of stakes, but it was actually really necessary since we needed our core characters to get stronger now that All Might was gone. So I actually do like that arc too. Oh, and Deku finally learns to use his legs here, so... Season 4 is what I consider to be the place where Act 2 and its characters really shine more compared to before, because the Hero License Exam is technically where Act 2 started, but it doesn't feel like it did. It just feels more of like an interlude more than the start of something else. So Season 4 is where I'd say it really shines. Overhaul is just one of those pure evil villains to me. I'm not gonna, like, I know he has his Shie, his Saikai reasonings, and he owes his Gramps, so he wants to get his clan and everything back up and running now that All Might's gone and shit, but nothing can justify what he did to Eri in my eyes. To me, he's just one of those pure evil villains. This arc also gave us one of Deku's greatest hero speeches and moments in the entire series as well.
If I can't save Eri, one small child who's relying on me to help her, then how can I call myself A hero who saves everybody! That's who I'm gonna be!
Unfortunately, the next two arcs that follow after that turned a lot of people away for a very long time. Culture Festival, to me, is one of my favorite arcs in the entire show, though. It's more of the academia side of the show for once, that isn't just an exam or ability training situation, but instead a showcase of how, like, the UA students try their best to make each other feel better and smile after all the tragedies that they've gone through. With Mirio and Deku obviously wanting Eri to smile and be happy at the core of it all is just so great. Gentle is also introduced in this arc to parallel Deku's character, and it's one of the greatest investments I've made in a character like ever. A lot of people didn't like Gentle back then. Matter of fact, a lot of people skip this arc in general now when they're watching it, funny enough. But Gentle, I knew there was some hope there, and the payoff is just extraordinary. Season 5's joint training arc did not help at all with fans leaving the series once the stakes and rush was nowhere near as high as it once was. It was especially bad of a season since the pacing was terrible for them. It's nothing like One Piece, but for My Hero standards, it was too slow, and it left no room for the following arc that was My Villain Academia, which will forever be what could have been one of the coldest arcs in the entire show, but will never get praised because it was left with no time and, for lack of better words, no budget. I've already mentioned 2 reasons that season failed, but a third and most important one would be the decision to rearrange the events taking place. For some reason, Endeavor's agency, they moved that to be after the class battles, the joint training arc, even though it takes place after My Villain Academia, and then they cut out stuff from My Villain Academia. I'll never know why they did that the way they did, and I'll always wish that it could have been better. Of course, when I watched it, I loved it. It was different. We got to see the villain side for once. A whole part dedicated to them. So yeah, I loved it. I was interested. But now knowing everything, I just wish things could have gone better. And I wish they had more time to finish it up. But yeah. Season 6 is the first time since episode 88 of the series where I was genuinely hype every episode. I don't care what anybody says. My Hero didn't get good again at the start of season 7 or 8. It became hype again here. The build-up of the past 2 seasons where both sides were training and preparing has finally started to pay off, and what a joy it was to see. Of course, the heroes lost due to them being ill-suited for what was to come, and then we got one of My Hero's best intros of the series, and it was so good, it actually got me to make my first actual drawing instead of just random sketches in my notebook. So yes, this season was peak, and filled with such peak that if I were to explain it all and what it means to me, this video would be 25 minutes alone off that. Season 7 is what I consider to be the start of the end, since from this point on, it doesn't end until the 4th to last episode of the series. Of course, I'm referring to the final war arc, the most controversial arc in every way possible, I'd say. Even so, with its moments, Season 7 was still greatly adapted, with the studio having a new director take the mantle and guide us towards a better visually looking series. Every fight was great to watch, including the minor ones like Star vs. Shigaraki or Spinner vs. Shoji, so I'd consider this season a great success story-wise and animation-wise. Amazing investment it's been. Season 8, the finale of a tale 11 years in the making, finally brought to life, and brought to life it was, with some of the greatest visuals the series has ever seen. And yes, I'm including the movies when I say that, because Season 8's adaptation was just that good. Even the epilogue was adapted beautifully, with the last episode including some extra moments that weren't even in the manga. As a super fan of the series, I'd also like to comment the internet has been 20 times as more fond of the choices and everything that takes place in the final war arc compared to what the community was saying online before season 7 released. So I'm glad, actually happy, a great adaptation can change a negative opinion into a positive one. Even with My Hero's flaws, it's still easily an 8 out of 10 at least, when I'm not being biased towards it. With that being said, at the time I'm reading this, My Hero Academia's final episode airs in 2 days, with an OVA that'll be released God knows when, following the story after the finale. And I can't fathom it. I'm really attached to this show personally, and no other anime series has ever really made me feel as connected as I do with MHA. Of course, every anime has its moments for me though, like Junpei's death in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, or Kuma and Bonnie's mini arc with an egghead, but still, it's wild to me. Maybe I'm just somebody who likes heroism, but if that's the case, then why am I not eager to watch To Be a Hero X or play Dispatch on my computer? Everybody has an anime, movie, or show that's close to their heart. That part is true. So it's likely the case that My Hero Academia is that for me. Is it flawed? Yes, of course. What good story isn't, though? Just ask an Interstellar hater why they dislike it, and you'll see how minor of an issue it is, to the point where it doesn't ruin how good the rest of the story is. In my opinion, same thing goes for My Hero. And now, after reviewing the series, I'll explain what My Hero Academia is to me. My Hero's themes and situations simply spoke to me in a way that I could connect to that other series couldn't. Heroism, symbolism, corrupt societies, internal struggles, expectations, family, misunderstandings, fear, etc. These themes, when said out loud, seem so surface level and so simple, so you might ask me why. Well, I relate to them. Deku and his positive outlook is probably my favorite thing about My Hero Academia. He sees the good in everyone, and even when there is no good in question, he will still do his best to understand what led someone to act the way they did. I consider myself an optimist, so when I see a character so fitting to my nature, and so vulnerable yet strong, with aspirations so tall they reach the moon, I simply can't help but be a fan. A lot of people dislike Bakugo, even now, but he's such an important character to Deku, that if Deku wasn't there, Bakugo would literally be nothing. The truth is, not everyone will accept free handouts and accept kindness no matter how innocent the intention. So when a character like Bakugo shows up and becomes the South Pole to Deku, well, it makes the story feel more real. Not everyone will accept you so quickly when you're a hard person for them to comprehend. When Bakugo comes around and eventually apologizes to Deku, it isn't something that was rushed. It's a process of recognizing internal conflicts and making peace with the fact that it's okay to accept someone who doesn't meet your ideals, that they can coexist with you. Oh, but it was too late of an apology. Deku didn't even seem to care. It's never spoken about afterwards. Is a take I've seen floating around a couple times in the community over the past few years. The thing is, All Might himself explains Deku probably doesn't feel like Bakugo owes him anything in the first place. Bakugo as a character just becomes even greater because of his apology, and Deku still remains his coexisting rival. Their bond simply becomes greater just because of it. I explained that all in an effort to showcase how one of My Hero Academia's most controversial plot points is actually one of its best written ones, with some of the greatest, more smile-enticing payoffs the series has to offer. And of course, the Todoroki family being the most controversial plotline, with various opinions on every character involved in that plotline still being spoken about to this day. My opinion? It's probably the most realistic storyline the My Hero Academia manga has to offer. Enji Todoroki being a forever failure in terms of the handling of his family is something that ever so slightly changes throughout the manga regardless of his attempts at atonement, and it's actually pretty wonderful to witness. Quirk marriages in order to birth powerful children solely for the sake of surpassing the forebear, and the taking of the mantle that is #1 hero is something so insane that actually seems so possible in the My Hero universe, and it's something that I'm still shocked even turned out as beautifully as it was, with almost zero slip-ups. One of my favorite things about the villains in My Hero is that some of the more powerful ones could have easily just been saved when they were most vulnerable, with someone simply lending out a helping hand and some reassurance that nothing is their fault and that things will be better for them. No one in Hero Society was willing to lend a helping hand to Tenko, Toga, Spinner, Twice, Flecked, Gentle. Of course, some didn't even have the chance to receive help, like Nomu, Hood, High Ends, and Shirakumo. The mangaka of My Hero, Horikoshi, is actually great at writing conflict, whether it's internal or external, and it fortunately led to the creation of one of the more iconic phrases in all of shonen. It's a saying that means pushing past your limits. It means doing more, trying again.
Go beyond! Plus!
It's motivational, it's beautiful to hear, and it affects me personally in a way only Erwin, Levi, and Aaron ever have. I remember moving homes in the fall of 2023 and watching the One for All episode on the lowest resolution possible. I wanted to see My Hero on my TV, but my home didn't have Wi-Fi yet, so I had to use my phone's hotspot in order for Funimation to function on it. It was beautiful. I remember texting my friend being all gassed up about it, even though I basically saw it like this. He undoubtedly is one of the greatest examples of going beyond plus ultra. Even when he became quirkless, he used up all his fortune to have Melissa craft up a suit for him so he can do his best against All for One. He fought him 3 separate times and not once ever backed down, pushing past his limits, trying again, reaching new heights. I can see why people would prefer the unstoppable force that is All Might, contrast to Deku. But even so, I really do think Deku is a better character than All Might, which is something I can say since My Hero has concluded now, and we've seen the story of All Might and Deku's lives, both respectively. I barely missed watching Season 6 when it was airing, but was fortunate enough to see the rest of the Final War arc and epilogue as it was airing. So I would just like to point out, the comeback this show has had reputation-wise is insane. I'm sure regular MHA fans can recognize what I mean when I say you could not mention My Hero anywhere without getting fried by someone just for bringing it up. And now here we are in the late last moments of 2025 with My Hero Academia's public opinion changing from the series and fandom sucks to just the fandom sucks. And I'm so incredibly honored to have witnessed that change in the little time I shared in the community. I also did my part in the revisionism, by the way, so I'd like to give myself a little pat on the back as well. Follow me on Twitter for probably JJK Season 3 tweets soon. I have so many favorite characters in this show, I'd be crazy to mention all of them here. So here's a tier list showcasing my least favorites to favorites based on their development and importance to the story and or other characters. I love My Hero Academia so much, and even though I didn't find it when I was in a rough spot, I can guarantee it has pulled me out of multiple throughout its run. I've had a lot of mental hardships since the summer of 2023, but no matter what, I've still had those posters, figures, screen recordings, screenshots, wallpapers, mangas, drawings. Hell, even my desk pad is from Season 7, Episode 19, 4 minutes and 15 seconds in. This year has been amazing in terms of releases like Kaiju Number 8 Season 2 or Dandadan Season 2, even though it's a Part 2 or Course 2. Sakamoto Days, Course 2, and Course 1. I don't know the whole season and course thing. I don't know why they're doing that now. ReZero Season 3. I also caught up on Fire Force and One Piece as well after putting it off for so long. But all those shows made me realize why I love My Hero Academia the most. Not for animation purposes, but simply its characters and theme of it all. The idea that doing your best and pushing past your limits while lending a helping hand to those in need can make a difference. The message that it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to not always be positive, but to strive and work for those positive and better days. My Hero Academia saved me because I can relate to it the most. I can relate to wanting to be the best version of myself, but not knowing what my next choice is or how it'll turn out. I can relate to wanting friends there beside you to help you when you fail. I can relate to trying to be a role model to those that follow you so that they don't make the same mistakes you have. I can recognize that My Hero Academia is not the only media that has ever shown these tropes, but it's just the one that resided best with me and has shown it the best. And see, I can understand how people may not like it. That's fine. I'll always say that if you weren't hooked after the first 2 episodes or finishing the whole first volume, then maybe it's not the right series for you. But to say that it's bad or terrible because of the fan base from like 5 to 6 years ago is mind-blowing to me. And so, with all that being said, all I have left to say is thank you to everyone who saw this video to the very end. I think it'll somehow turn out even longer than my One Piece video, so I apologize for it being another long watch, but thank you very much. I love My Hero, and this was a video I've been wanting to make since October, but couldn't since school and work come first. However, it's finally here, it's finally out, and I can finally sleep peacefully on my winter break. If you aren't subscribed yet but still like this type of content, go ahead and hit that button for me. I aim for posting once a month, but if life gets in the way of that, so be it. Leave a like and comment your thoughts below, as it does help push my video out to more people. And if you have a friend you think would like this, then go ahead and share that link with them. And so, with all that being said, this was the story of how much My Hero Academia meant to me and how I was saved by My Hero Academia.